Next speaker, the member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thanks to my friend from Nickel Belt. I want to add to this debate by focusing on an issue that's really important to growers and citizens, residents, where I live in Ottawa Centre, and that is the issue of food waste. It was alarming when I did the rounds back home the first time and started checking in with farmers market vendors, family farms around the Greater Ottawa area, experts on the issue of residential and commercial food waste, to learn some of the following things that I'm going to share with this House that I think are very appropriate to the mandate of the Agricultural Research Institute of Ontario. Because after all, we are talking about what are the ideas that drive the breadbasket of, I believe, a lot of our country, but certainly of the jurisdiction for which we're responsible. So let's just go over some numbers when we think about food waste in Ontario and in Canada. Surprisingly for me, I learned Canada has one of the highest food waste percentages of our output in the entire world. About 60% of all the food produced in this country ends up in waste. In Ontario, the 805 landfills we have in the province are expected to reach capacity by 2041. And a while ago, 9 years ago in 2015, the province estimated that approximately 32% of the landfill waste is food waste. So that accounts for 3.7 million tons of food, Speaker, that is thrown out every year. In a context we talk about all the time of hardship and affordability and poverty, 3.7 million tons of food thrown out in Ontario every year. The vast majority of this organic matter is sealed in plastic bags, which is serious, Speaker, because what that means is when it decomposes, it doesn't decompose properly and it emits methane. Methane, of course, being a gas which is 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide. It traps heat. It is exactly opposite to what we should be working towards as a province. So I'm going to cite a local agency, a local community agency that has a lot of expertise, Food Share Ottawa. They said in a report made available to the community that 50% of the wasted food that they were aware of happened from farm to retailer. So it's the capacity of the retailer to utilize the food to sell the product to the consumer, as the member for Peterborough-Kawartha said earlier, and the consumer has an idea of what appropriate food should look like. And when it's not appropriate, it's not bought. And when it's not bought, often it's disposed of. So in 2016, again, some time ago, the province committed to revamp its waste management strategy. They talked about moving towards a system in which we encourage what's called a circular economy. So when a grower produces food and that's brought to a retailer, if there is food waste, we find some use for that food waste. So I want to salute, Speaker, in the time I have left this afternoon, some people back home who are pioneers and innovators who are doing exactly that. I want to talk about Karen Plunkett from an enterprise called Frugal Farms. Karen has relationships with 26 grocery stores in the Greater Ottawa area, and she saves for her animals 10 to 12 tons of food that would otherwise go wasted per month that she uses to feed her animals. If you go on Facebook right now, and I know everybody right now is paying rapt attention to the words I'm using, but if any one of my colleagues were on Facebook right now, and you were to pull up the Frugal Farms Facebook page, you would see images of Karen's farm of livestock eating pumpkins that were otherwise destined for the landfill, of chickens eating pieces of watermelon, all appropriate for their diets, all tested with good veterinary science, but reutilizing through a circular economy approach food that would otherwise go wasted. I want to salute another organization called Box of Life. Box of Life at home is a vermicomposting social enterprise. And what they are doing is trying to find a way to partner with apartment complexes, with restaurants, with agencies responsible for the creation of food, to make sure that what would otherwise might go to the landfill is used in a revitalization process where worms are put in big tubs of earth that make some of the richest soil. If you're a gardener, I know there are green thumbs in this place. If you love to garden, then the kind of gold that gets produced from these vermicomposting units are precisely what you need. So Box of Life, I'm happy to say, has added 500 new residents to my own constituency office at 109 Catherine Street. Speaker, we have one of the large vermicomposting units. It does not stink up the office. The scent is fine. And what we do with our office staff team is we repurpose any food scraps from our own homes and feeding our families, and anything in the day that ultimately gets fed to the worms, our 500 friends in the office. And what we do is we have a fantastic little garden box outside our office door on 109 Catherine Street. You're all welcome to visit anytime. And we make some of the best cherry tomatoes, I believe, in Centertown. But that is all, again, part of that small version of what that circular economy should look like. And it's a lot better, quite frankly, than, let's review the statistic again, 3.7 million tons of food being wasted in Ontario every year. So why I'm bringing all of this up as we talk about the Agricultural Research Institute of Ontario is I would actually like to see significant provincial investment put into how we support these local champions. Frugal Farms, Box of Life, Food Share Ottawa. Because what we know, Speaker, is that any time we have invested in these pioneers, we use all or most of the food that we create in this province, which is good. We repurpose and lower costs for farms who would otherwise have to buy food for their animals. It's a win-win all around, Speaker. But what we have to remember is, in the agricultural sector, we want to do everything we can to preserve arable land, to support the farmers and the growers and the agricultural workers who are doing all of that work. But once we have that bounty of harvest, we got to make sure that it's used appropriately. And that's often been part of the discussion that's not been appropriately understood. I want to point to two jurisdictions for inspiration, Speaker, as I end this discussion of food waste, which I think is appropriate when we think about what this agency should be doing for Ontario. I want to talk about the City of Vancouver. The City of Vancouver has passed bylaw which works directly with restaurants in the greater city of Vancouver, which provides pretty steep fines after an introductory period of education, and this has been around since 2015, if there's excessive food scraps going to their landfill. And what they try to do long ahead of time is partner those restaurants and large community operations, business operations that are creating and making food, to repurpose all of that food waste so it can be used to produce effective fertilizer. They have shown they have one of the best green box programs in the country. They have shown that green box opportunities are possible for multiple dwelling homes, single-family homes, large business enterprises, and that once business was aware of the conduit with which their food could find a home, you took a big burden off them, and it was embraced. It was embraced. I also want to point to the country of South Korea, Speaker, which, as my friends back home have indicated to me, embraced this over 20 years ago. South Korea used to have 97%, according to the research made available to me, 97% of the food waste was going straight to landfill. Today, it is almost 100% efficiency of turning around that food waste and through a circular loop repurposing it back so it plays a productive role and not the role of waste. So, Speaker, this is an odd moment in which I am appearing as a Conservative, as a New Democrat. I am known by my children in my own home as the food police. They hate it when I pick on them, not just for finishing their meals. I don't demand they finish their meals, but I do hate it when food goes to waste on our own fridge, Speaker. And I think that's something we all should care about. If the people that we rely upon to grow the food, to manage the animals, to manage the enterprises that produce fantastic food in this province, it is a shame that 60% of that food should end up in the landfill. We need to do a lot better than that. And what I know is from the folks that I've had the pleasure to work with at home, we can do a lot better than that, but it requires making the right investments. So I suggest to the government, as it works with this research institute going forward, that food waste should be a priority. We should be thinking about how we utilize all of the food we produce, and we should be supporting the local producers and the local innovators that are making it happen. Thank you, Speaker.